Hello and welcome to Avasant's Digital Forum, Thriving in the Post-COVID World, Enabling Digital Innovation and Cost Optimization. This event is presented in partnership with TCS. Avasant is thrilled to have partnered with such an innovative organization to bring an hour of thought leadership and expert insights to our audience. Thank you again to TCS for your partnership. And to just let everyone know, as a thank you for joining us today, you will receive a hardcover of Avasant's CEO and Chairman, Kevin Parikh's Amazon best-selling book, Digital Singularity, A Case for Humanity. As we aim to make these sessions as interactive as possible, we encourage you to utilize the chat and Q&A features on the dashboard to pose your questions to the panelists. They will be answering your questions live throughout the hour. Finally, a replay of Avasant's Digital Forum and today's slides will be emailed to all attendees. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to today's keynote speaker, Avasant's CEO and Chairman, Kevin Parikh. Kevin, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adriana, and thank you, TCS and our distinguished panelists. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm addressing you today from Los Angeles, California. So I'm just about 12 hours behind you, and it is genuinely a pleasure to be speaking with you today. I wanted to kick off today's session with a few thoughts specifically about what's happening in the GCC as it pertains to coronavirus impacts, but also digital transformation, and make the point that there's really been no greater and more urgent push for digital innovation than COVID-19. In fact, today, I would argue that COVID-19 is the chief transformation officer, and it is changing organizations at a very rapid pace. We see today that these two juxtaposed positions between COVID-19, the pandemic, and the impact of oil prices and declining oil prices. See if I can do this. These declining oil prices have been in play for some months. And when we combine that with COVID-19, it's created a severe impact on GCC states. In fact, Avasant recently conducted a study. It was published in Forbes, specifically looking on a vertical by vertical impact. I'm pleased to share some of that information with you today. We see a 56% decline in the travel sector with this sort of double impact. Construction and real estate, a 50% cut in capital spending. Renewable energies are also impacting and putting pressure on traditional fossil fuels. We're seeing leisure and tourism fall, and there's almost 180 million US impact daily. This is a significant impact on the GCC region. What I'm going to share with you next is a slide that looks at this globally. We recently published this in Forbes, and this global view shows you that the GCC is not unique, but somehow the areas of particular interest to the region are, of course, globally also severely impacted: travel and transportation, manufacturing, energy. And so this is not just a local problem, but this is a global one. And so the question is, what do we do with a circumstance like this in the region? How do we stay ahead of the global recession? How do we focus on growth areas when we have declining oil prices, and we also have key industries like retail and travel and transportation so affected? One of the key fallouts and opportunities that we see from COVID-19 is that the GCC states are, in fact, probably more able to address the problem than we originally expected. You see, the mobile and digital preparedness in the GCC is stronger than any other region, and you can see that here. And one of the critical factors to actually emerging out of COVID-19 is the ability for businesses and governments to respond in a virtual and rapid and digital way. And so you can actually see, when you look at the numbers too, COVID-19 recovery rate, 95.5% versus the world at 69%. The fatality rate in the GCC is amongst the lowest. So, a combination of low rates of infection, high digital preparedness, and also aggressive government response has created a platform for recovery. The GCC businesses have already started that 2-year recovery, and we're actually seeing what types of investments are going to be required. Companies must increase their digital transformation budgets, and we see 80% of our clients and also those companies which we track already way underway in that regard. That includes large-scale investments in cloud transformation, AI and analytics, and also in enterprise mobility and broadband. And again, the GCC has an advantage here over other regions. Part of this future proofing is requiring the use of digital technologies in novel and new ways. See, anyone can talk technology, but connecting human experiences is what makes it special and different. So we have to align customer demand, flexibility, predictive solutions, and metric business cultures, which are really driving us to succeed. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, which I think will hopefully make this crystal clear. So if you consider our new next generation companies like Amazon, Netflix, Zoom, and even Tesla, what are some of the factors in these companies that makes them different from traditional legacy companies that have now gone digital? The key factors, I think, that are driving these companies and creating a different sort of result is the experience that customers have with them. So if you consider whether you're utilizing Zoom or you're utilizing a traditional video conferencing method, why is it that people gravitate to a Zoom platform over others? Or they gravitate to Amazon, which is, of course, is a Western phenomenon. But the reason is because of the way that those companies have integrated supply chain and customer experience together, and using digital platforms to create a virtually smooth experience. And this has created a competitive advantage. They've created a customer first and agile and creative culture of innovation. And as we look forward to businesses in the GCC region and governments, the ability to do that and connect with customers and clients in this way is going to be absolutely essential. I have this favorite illustration, which I thought I would share with you as well. So for those of you that are following the recent advances in the International Space Station, you might have recently heard that SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, right here, based here across the street from Avasant headquarters here in Southern California, they recently launched their manned Dragon craft to the International Space Station. And what you see here on the right is the experience that the astronauts have in a very automated mode of transportation. On the left is an equally successful aircraft, but that control system is the Soyuz aircraft. Both of these aircrafts take you to the ISS, International Space Station, and back, and relatively safely. But this is the difference in the customer experience. If you're an astronaut, where would you prefer to be sitting? And where would you feel more confident about your result? And this is the same thing our customers feel every day, our clients and our businesses. They want to feel that security and confidence of automation, and the experience matters. We have an opportunity in the GCC to turn these challenges that we're facing into opportunities. And this is the silver lining of the coronavirus, because it is driving this tremendous movement forward. It is the Chief Transformation Officer for our organizations today. And it has actually accelerated digital innovation. So once again, welcome to all of our panelists. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the session.
Thank you, Kevin. I would now like to turn it over to today's moderator, Anupam Goval. Anupam is head of global sales and a partner with Avasant. Anupam, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Adriana. So Kevin has set the stage perfectly for our discussion to follow. We're going to talk about
how the GCC region is grappling with the impact of COVID, but not only that, how are they coming out of this stronger? And how are they setting the foundation to thrive in the post-COVID world? As Kevin talked about it, COVID in an ironical way is actually accelerate the wave of disruption and forced companies to innovate much faster. And we're seeing this in industry after industry. So what I'm going to share with you first are a couple of slides that are taken from our recently released radar view. This is our proprietary vendor assessment framework where we assess the top 25 service providers in the region that are providing services to help companies enable digital transformation. As you can see on this slide, that the GCC region has been on the road towards structural reform for quite a while. And as Kevin mentioned, the oil economy has to give way to the services economy, and the region has to diversify its base. So the local firms in the region exposed to global competition and disruptions have been embracing digital for quite a while. And so for GCC, this digital transformation journey is nothing new, but the impact is bringing about further changes that we're going to talk about with panelists shortly. The other impact is that we're seeing a proliferation of different technology vendors and service providers who are enabling their clients to go through this transformation. And we're seeing a significant increase in the availability of talent in the region with the right digital skills to enable this transformation. Next slide, please. In this next slide, we just talk quickly about the fact that the 4 leading sectors in the region that are already embracing digital very aggressively are travel and transportation, banking and financial services, public sector and government, as well as utility and resources. And today, one of our speakers is actually going to be talking from the travel industry. We're also seeing, as I said, a number of service providers that are establishing a strong footprint in the region. Next slide. So this slide shows a snapshot of the radar view that we publish every year, where we rank service providers amongst, in these different categories from leader down through challenger. And today we have the pleasure of having TCS, which has been ranked as a leader in the region, as the sponsor and one of the speakers. So with that, I'm going to introduce my panelists and then share an opening question with them. So I have Sumanta Roy. He's Vice President and Head of TCS's Middle East, Africa, and Mediterranean region. I have Umashankar Achutuni. He's a Senior Transformation Director for the SIRA Group for the Middle East. And I also have my colleague Srini Krishna. He's a partner and heads EMEA region for Avasound. So starting with you, Srini, maybe I'd like to hear from you just your general viewpoint on how has the pandemic affected different industries in the region, and what are the companies doing to recover from it?
Thank you very much, Anupam. Pleasure to be here and speak to everyone from this region. The pandemic has, and Uma certainly will be speaking more about it. The region is highly dependent on the retail industry, the tourism industry, where people travel to the region and enjoy the experience of both from the business and also the local environment. So travel is very, very fundamental and critical, and the physical experience that the region offers with people has been one of its key selling points. And that's what the pandemic is impacted. So the challenge the companies have had in this, and this region has had, is a significant decline in travel into the region, which means its biggest industry, the retail and tourism, has been impacted. So two major aspects that our companies are reacting to. One is obviously the optimized costs. And from a GCC region, cost optimization is an interesting concept, which has historically not been associated with the region. So that's the first one. The second one is actually now growth, recognizing that physical experience that organizations, companies have been offering has to be complemented and probably even by the virtual experience, and maybe virtual experience has to play a bigger role. And so the use of multiple channels, a combination of both physical and importantly the virtual, has been a significant growth driver, and that's where digital technology is coming in. So these two are interestingly going hand in hand. And the third, which I would probably highlight, is that companies, and that came out of our research, was that organizations are increasingly open to using partners to help them address this capability gap to move into the virtual space. So it's not just using what is made in-house, but actually looking out to creating a partner ecosystem. So these are three key trends that are driving businesses in this region.
Thanks, Srini. How about you, Samantha? What are your views on this?
Yeah, thanks, Anupam. And I think what I wanted to say, most of it has been touched upon by either Kevin or Srini. But just to take the point of growth and cost optimization, I want to share a different idea. See, obviously, cost optimization is important, but the ability to do it correctly is also very important. And I'll give you two views on this. For example, let us say you are optimizing on your manufacturing line. Okay, if you're a big retailer and you have a manufacturing line as well, and you're optimizing it. Now, will you or won't you invest in spring 2021 collections if you are in the retail high fashion industry? So optimization has to be thought through, and it has to be driven by analytics and insights. So you should have good analytics and insight models to be able to optimize in the right direction and the right areas. That is very important. The second part is that it is also important to look at optimization of the human capital appropriately. You may want to spend there actually to increase the ability of your human capital to reinvent itself for the digital world, which is imperative for your growth. Okay, so in certain areas you will optimize, in certain areas actually you will spend, so that the growth comes through the digital channels. So that is, I think, what I wanted to share. Okay, so they go hand in hand. The growth and the optimization go hand in hand, and they feed off each other. The right optimization gives the right growth, and vice versa.
Right. So Uma, you are from the travel industry, which was the industry that faced the brunt of this and is still suffering through this pandemic. So talk to me in your own experience how this industry has been impacted, and what are you and other companies in this travel and tourism industry doing to recover from it? You're on mute.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no denying that, COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the travel and tourism industry. And early stages, we have to deal with the customers, the cancellations, amendments, and refunds, and a huge number of calls, we were receiving, to our call center. Then the later stages, we also, realized, what kind of opportunities, we want to tap on during the pandemic situation. And thanks to, the early adoption of digital, technologies, we were able to address the very high volume of customer calls, the refunds, the cancellation, the amendments, and the stage 2, the repatriation, where, we want to bring people back home, or we want people who wants to go home back. It's a huge amount of repatriation, and we even flown our own flights from Saudi to Egypt, so managing such a kind of a new services, and also being, a number one travel industry and having a maximum number of the hotel contracts and connections, government reached us out and we were helping them in managing the pandemic situation. We have a huge fleet of, 10,000 fleet of cars. We were serving the food to the Saudi nationals, as per the government instructions in a curfew areas. So we had a number of opportunities, umpteen number of opportunities during the pandemic situation. We also had to face a huge customer, the cancellation, refunds, and cash flow. Such a kind of a roller coaster ride, we were successfully able to manage. On one side, we have to make it seamlessly friendly and ensure that customer is not panicked, he gets his returns. On other side, we also able to help, all the travelers who are going back home. On third side, work with the government, what kind of new opportunities, these were the kind of three things we were running in parallel, and out of which, two work streams are, all work streams are under stress. But, as an organization, we were early on in the adoption of digital technologies. We transformed the back office with SAP, Salesforce, all our operations runs on Salesforce. The front office, we already digitalized all the products, everything, so we were able to manage effectively, during the three. It's a very, the good discussion. I don't want to take up much of your time, but, that there are challenges and there are opportunities, for us, to help the community, to help the government, and also, manage the cash flow.
Yeah. So, what we've seen during this pandemic is that businesses that were already on the road to a digital transformation, who had virtualized a lot of their data, embraced cloud computing, and that were also enabling their workforce to work remotely, were able to survive through this crisis much more efficiently and are recovering faster from this as well. So what is going to be sort of the future role that digital transformation is going to play in the company's agenda? And looking at the entire value chain of an organization, from how this has impacted the customer experience side at the front end, to how the back end and the supply chain systems have to be now rethought to enable a company to operate seamlessly during a disruptive period such as this, right? So, Sumanta, maybe I'll ask you this question first, because I know you're working with multiple clients in the region, so maybe you can share some of your thoughts.
Sure. Thanks for that. So essentially, the way we see it, that there are 6 capabilities which are very important for an organization to navigate through these choppy waters. And you're right, the people who had started the digital journey were ahead and they're recovering faster than compared to the others. One classic example that came to mind was the one that a report I read a few weeks back, which said that more than 30% of the American home buyers were seeing their new home for the first time when they were entering it. Okay, so the entire process of buying something which is as emotional and touch and feel oriented as a home was being absolutely conducted in a digital channel, which is very, very interesting. So essentially, the 6 capabilities that we really look at is, first is the companies have to figure out a way to take the customer journey 100% digital, in the sense it has to be end to end. There cannot be a sub process or a process which is not digital. Okay. To do this, there are certain interventions from a technology perspective. First is, if you are in the service industry, you have to be able to know where the customer service request is. to do that, you have to get into maybe AI ops, maybe RPM, sorry, or bots, for example. For Sira, for example, we did this bot which could take from Arabic to English very, very easily. In Arabic, what you speak is not what you write, but we were able to do with our ecosystem partners. So which comes to the third point, that the ability to work with ecosystem partners is going to be very, very important. Okay, nobody can do anything alone today in this world, especially in this difficult world. So the ecosystem partner is very, very important. The fourth point is that IoT-driven systems are going to become already very important, and they're going to be even more important, especially if you are going to be 100% digital on your customer experience. The manufacturing side has to depend on entirely IoT-driven inputs to the customer experience. Now, if you're looking at the post-COVID world with the vaccines coming in, most of the vaccines, you look at the one that Pfizer or the Oxford, all of them are at -94 or -14 degrees centigrade. Now, the transport of the vaccine is going to be a huge, supply chain opportunity, and the ability to predict that end-to-end in the supply chain, the temperature was managed and kept at the optimal temperature is going to be driven by IoT. Okay, across continents. For example, if you're shipping from US to, so let's say New Zealand, you're going to fly, you're going to take ships. How do you ensure that minus whatever degrees centigrade the temperature has to be in has been so, and therefore the efficacy and the safety of the vaccine is maintained, right? So IoT is going to already playing a role in the post-COVID world. Is going to play a massive, massive role. That's the fourth thing. The fifth one that we are seeing is that the employee work from home is very, very critical. We call it secured borderless workspaces, SBWS, and it's not just a network and an end computing device. The HR processes, the employee engagement, the legal processes, the ability to service your customers are going to be very, very important from this perspective. And the ability to get the right talent globally and use it for your customers will depend on how easy or seamless a company is able to allow its customers to work the from home using SBWS. The last piece, and this is happening as we speak, and it'll take some time, is we are actually seeing core IT processes move to the cloud. Okay, be it in a bank, be it in insurance, be it in ERP. What was at one point of time holy grail and couldn't be touched is no longer holy grail. Okay, I mean, it is no longer holy. It can be touched. It has to be moved to the cloud, and there are people who are trying to do that. Yeah, so that's
Sumanta, we'll touch upon the cloud topic in one of my future questions, but moving over to Srini, you're working with many clients across the region. Are you seeing now the impetus for digital escalating in the clients' minds? Are you seeing the digital transformation initiatives gaining a higher priority? And how do you see clients rolling out these new initiatives?
It is, and again, it's coming from two directions. One is really to the more immediate, which is to bring down the cost, the economics of the business, and how any of these technologies, automation or otherwise, can bring that down more immediately. But equally, it's the other bits, which is the more medium to future, longer term perspective, and Sumanta touched upon it, which is gaining traction, which is the growth. How do you? Yes, right now the conditions are difficult, cost pressures are very high, but what's the future going to look like? How do we get ourselves ready for 6-9 months ahead of today? And that's where the focus that we are seeing a lot is on one, driving the customer experience. And given the nature of the region's business, which is largely around retail, there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of focus on delivering a customer experience, a seamless end-to-end customer experience that is virtual, which the customers can go through. But then at the same time, and Sumanta correctly pointed this out, backing that up with the physical part of getting the supply chain and ensuring whether that the organization is actually able to deliver on that experience. So it's not just the experience, the virtual UX that's important, but it's also important to ensure that if a customer has seen a particular product, then you're able to deliver that. So integrating that front-end customer experience with the back-end supply chain, it's interesting. A lot of our conversations are happening around that organizations focus on delivering on that. And this is not with retail. Even in other places, in other industries, financial services also, the back end of the organization, how it integrates to deliver on the customer experience is where organizations are focusing on.
Right. So, Omar, coming to you, you mentioned, of course, that your industry had to adapt very rapidly to this pandemic. So how are you leveraging these different digital technologies, automation, AI, and IoT to enable more business agility and to improve your competitiveness and to come back to some kind of a normalcy?
Very good question. So what we saw during the pandemic situation, it's a three-phase approach we followed. The phase one is, as we said, we quickly enabled web forms so that the customers can submit the request, cancellations, and we have enabled the IVR services even to our branch agents. Even though branch was closed, but we were able to connect to their phones so we can take the more number of calls. We were able to address the customer, and that we were also in a hotline with the airlines so we can understand what kind of refunds we can give, what kind of, some airlines allowed us to postpone, some airlines allowed us to cancel and refund. So a lot of things we were able to establish multiple groups and enable these channels so quickly, and we ensured that our customers particularly, didn't face much hassle in terms of, the managing the cancellation amendments or changes. And the second thing we did is, on the repatriation, again, new services we brought in. We used our marketing channels, advertisement channels, so digital marketing. We attracted the customers, we want to go home, back home, or the people want to come back, and we were able to use the, marketing and, very well. The third one is basically what we are doing, during the phase. We're also, upgrading our technology stack. Particularly, we have worked on data technologies a lot. The reason is we know for sure that the customer behavior is going to change. So we want to understand how the customer behavior in terms of travel is going to change. And we want to actually, we opened up those digital data analytics dashboard to the government tourism boards, to our partner companies, so they can actually see the customer behavior early and adopt. As a country, as a GCC countries, as a UAE country, they can change their strategies if they understand what is the new customer who is coming to UAE or moving out of Saudi, coming to other countries, what exactly they are looking for. These are the things, we have worked a lot. We enabled it. We partnered with the Saudi country and UAE, the travel boards, and that's one big area we worked on. And the second big area what we have worked on is, enabling a business travel digital platform in Arabic, first of its kind. There is, if you look at traditional companies like, the Carlson Wagonly Travel, or, they all have the English front end, travel request. We enabled Arabic facing front-end travel request. We're able to deploy quickly so that companies can help. In the post-pandemic situation, people are traveling within Saudi, but using an online Arabic platform, instead of coming to a branch. The third one is the most important one also, where we focused on is how do we take the digital technologies and we enable the WhatsApp bot, the bot chat services, all kind of services we enable through online platform. And we saw our traditional, we get a lot of tickets, from the patients. So, as I said, we are supporting government. So patients do raise a request in the hospitals. We have automated that using the bot. So that's also another initial opportunity we saw. Hey, this is the place, where if we can automate, we can take more requests, quickly. So we deployed RPA products, and we were able to automate the kind of medical patients moving around Saudi, managing the appointments, helping the hospitals, taking the patients of the government employees. So we focused on the right things. We brought bot technologies, and this is what helped us. Now we are actually studying the pattern. We are also studying the market, how the customer behavior is going to come back. The fourth area I would say is very important is, the domestic travel. So we expect, in Saudi, initially for next 6 to 9 months, people may use more domestic Saudi travel. They want to venture Saudi. So we launched a domestic Saudi travel program. We created a special packages, to see the Saudi Red Sea. There are beautiful spots, excellent, outstanding country, untapped for tourism. So we are working with the government, opening up these channels, and we are heavily advertising within Saudi for the people to travel within Saudi and ensure that we get into that market very fast. And these are the things that we are helping us quickly recovering from the situation, keeping our customer focus on track without any dipping in their satisfaction.
Great points, Omar. And I think most companies across different industries realize that automation really can help business scale up and down, and especially manage a surge in demand when such crises come up, right? And companies that were able to, for example, use automation and bots to rebook their travel for their customers and handle a surge of different cancellations, were able to keep up to it. Customers that were able to use conversational AI and chatbots were able to handle increased number of customer inquiries, right? So now the relevance has dawned on companies that these are not just cost-cutting measures. These are actually essential tools to enable a business to be more agile and to be more resilient and to survive through these kinds of crises, right? So,
and they're very strategic also. I would believe, Anupam, we should no longer think that bots and robotics, they are kind of a cost reduction initiatives. They're actually strategic initiatives, And you may not know, COVID-2 already hit us. So we are seeing, same second wave, So, these are the products is helping us in managing the fluctuations in the customer service area.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, with that, I will switch the next question to Sumanta, actually, and it's a continuation of what you had mentioned earlier, right? As companies now also have to shift to more variable cost structures, cloud adoption is becoming more and more of an imperative, right? What do you see the future of cloud in the GCC region for both the public sector and private sector? And which direction do you see this going? Are you seeing a greater adoption of private cloud or public cloud or hybrid? Which flavors do you see being predominant?
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer this question and try and answer the question that Indu Singhal has put up on the chat as well. Okay, if that is okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So the question there is, how do you see digital innovation impacting the retail industry? I'll try and combine these two, your question and that, and give a
Sure.
holistic answer. Right. Okay. So yeah, cloud is the the backbone of transformation and business. I mean, if you are not on cloud, you're not going to be able to do business. Okay. See, for example, today, let us say you are what Uma talked about. You're introducing new products. Okay. Suddenly, your products were all international market products. Suddenly, you're moving to domestic travel products. How do you do that without cloud? You cannot. Okay. If you are going to have the products, again, your booking engine is going to be on site, your connection to the airline is going to be somewhere else, and you're going to test this entire process through and through on your own premises and your partner's premises. To introduce that product will take 3 months to 4 months, and you don't have that luxury. You have to introduce products as and when the customer demands or the situation demands. And therefore, cloud is the way to be able to deliver the product at the right time to the right person. See, the person also is important. Okay. So if you have to reach out to the right person, you need cloud to know who the right person is. Okay. The segment of one is not possible without cloud. Okay. I'll give you a small example, which happened a few days back in a seminar where the CIO of JetBlue was talking, and he said that till then, their analytics and insights programs were all about what is the price of the competitor's ticket between two cities, or what is the price of jet fuel, is it going to go up or go down? Suddenly, it is about if the person has bought the tickets, will the person actually fly or cancel? What is the probability of cancellation? So the models, the intrinsic business models have changed suddenly. And how will you get data about whether somebody, Anupam Govil, wants to fly or doesn't want to fly? It can only come from the social media. How will you, talk to the social media? Only through cloud. You cannot have the entire social media or a piece of the social media in your premises. It is impossible, right? Cost-wise, time-wise, whatever way you want to see it. Okay. So cloud has become important. In GCC, currently, it is a mixture of both. There are certain places where there is private cloud. Okay, the data sovereignty is being worked out as we speak, and this will lead to more and more public cloud. The journey we see, that a lot of people are trying public cloud, especially where the data privacy is not a big question mark. People are moving to the private cloud. Public cloud, where the data privacy is an issue. There are customer data issues. They're still trying to keep it private. The governments. Yes, I can talk specifically about Saudi government and UAE government, and other GCC governments also. Everybody has a cloud strategy, every one of them. Okay, there is not a country in the Gulf region which doesn't have a cloud strategy. I want to switch to Indu's question. How do I see this retail industry being impacted? Again, cloud is going to be the secret sauce. It's not secret anymore. It's going to be the sauce for the digital innovations. The ability to push the data, get the data, push the data, and consume the data are all going to be cloud enabled. The ability, again, to figure out in your supply chain what is happening is also going to be cloud driven. Suddenly in UAE, especially in UAE, this is specific to UAE, not other countries, because UAE has become such a center of gravity of business. I see suddenly a lot of interest in text mining, okay? Chinese text, Italian text, French text. This was not there before because, from a legal perspective, all those things are suddenly changing. And you can do this only on cloud. From a retail perspective, the ability to source right, okay, will depend on your ability to mine these inputs that are coming in through text mining. And you cannot do it in the normal way. You have to do it from the cloud perspective. And the other important thing is your bots, your RPAs, in a black swan event like the COVID-19, they probably will need to get retrained, okay? Because your data models are changing, okay? Suddenly, what was an outlier is no longer an outlier. That is the reality now, okay? So retail industries, you have to, the ability to find that, especially in retail industries, is very, very crucial, okay? And the ability to do that will depend on how well all your moving parts are in the cloud and can talk to each other seamlessly, okay? So I think I will pause there. I don't want to take this point anymore.
I think we're seeing the rise of the phygital industry within retail, right? Where you have to blend the physical and the digital components and create this frictionless commerce, right? And again, more and more of the retail firms are rapidly adopting and using all the digital tools, including, you know, AR, VR, and IoT and AI to really personalize and increase the customer experience and hence build that brand loyalty, right? So with that, I'd like to switch this question now to Srini, where, you know, along with the need for digital innovation, there's also now a heightened need for cost optimization, as many companies are facing severe cost pressures and have to improve their balance sheets, right? What trends do you see within the outsourcing sector? How are you seeing the GCC companies generally adopting more outsourcing, and which direction do you see them going?
So it's a great question in that the use of outsourcing we're seeing is increasing across the board, and obviously the first bit is getting the back office, which is nothing new, but it is something that is starting across both from an IT perspective and also your business processes. There is the back office, which is increasingly being outsourced and even offshore. But the more important bit is it's moving up from the back office to the middle and closer to the front office. And with some of with the trends that Sumantha talked about, what is actually happening is that the use of outsourcing is getting to be deployed where organizations recognize that you can use partners to drive more insight and analytics, understanding of the customer closer to the customer end. So the whole concept of using outsourcing to track and mine social media and other channels of information and data to gain insight, those are the areas that you're looking at from an outsourcing perspective, which is very interesting, because up until now, the standard stuff, you know, infrastructure, applications, F&A, HR, that's been around. That's been around for long. Well, the fact that they are increasing it is good news. But what is now happening is that organizations are looking at providers like Sumantha's organization, several others that we looked at as part of our Middle East research on digital services. They are now being asked to provide those front-end services. The question is, how do you, so the outsourcing bit is one, the cost optimization, but equally in a cost optimal fashion, help me understand the customer better. And that's where the direction of outsourcing is trending. So it's, don't give me just cheap stuff, but give me more brains at a lower cost. And that's going to be the challenge of outsourcing, as we hear more and more from our from the customers who came out of our research. And we're seeing it in the conversations that we're having with organizations in the region. It's that help me get to that understand that moment, that customer moment when he or she is making that decision, recognizing that they will look at their decisions not made on one site or one organization, but multiple.
Mhm.
The brand loyalty itself is changing. So that's
Okay.
going to be the challenge, outsourcing challenge. In the near
Great point, Srini. So, Uma, I mean, how have your outsourcing partners such as TCS helped you adapt to this current business environment and meet all the challenges? Do you want to talk from your experience?
Yeah, we were on a transformation journey from last 4 years, I would say. So we are transformed to the pretty much best-in-class products, like entire back office is on SAP, HR is on SuccessFactor, the operations are on Salesforce, the ticketing tools, service now. So we have adopted all the market best-in-class products. When you use these market best-in-class products, the biggest advantage you get is you get the skill in abundance in the in the offshore allocations, right? So and another strategy what we did in the last 3 years is we moved more to Egypt. So we already have a huge option, kind of a low-cost business operations, a BPO plus, the delivery center established in Egypt, and we were able to thrive more and more on Egypt. So we push more work to Egypt. In this situation, we were able to, address the surge, work, through Egypt, kind of a factory, I would call as, So, so my 2 cents is, standard products, easy to offshore, and we are the #1 strategic partner in AWS. So we, in fact, leverage the AWS a lot because our computation power is not required that much during the pandemic situation where, the users are not searching much. We're able to drastically reduce the cost, on the AWS too. So to answer, to your question, since we are using most of the standard products, and even the front end and digital technologies are, with the latest and greatest architecture, we are able to get a good offshore amount of people doing that. And TCS is supporting us ServiceNow product 100% from offshore. So which is a very strategic product, for employees and for us.
Okay, so I'm going to ask one more audience question quickly, and then we'll get to our sort of last question as we're running out of time. So Sumanta, maybe you can address this. One of the listeners is asking, so strategy offices need solutions to make themselves resilient in the long term from such disruptions. Should technology leaders engage in business consulting for their enterprises? So should technology leaders also provide that business consulting to their strategy and corporate executives?
Okay, it's an interesting question. So the answer is, I'm not being diplomatic here. The answer is yes and no. Okay, because see, there are 2 ways of looking at it. Sometimes the ability to blue sky, okay, is what gets you the result, and you should do that irrespective of what kind of technology you take or choose downstream. Okay, so sometimes technology companies, are not able to separate out both of them. Okay, the entire blue skying of the ideation and in the rundown to the technology. On the other hand, if it is too blue sky, and there is no technology on planet Earth which can substantiate or see the light of day of your idea, then that idea is worthless. Okay, and then in such cases, companies like us become more and more interesting, because the ability to think through in real terms and be able to take it through to its fruition completely and deliver the end results is important. Yes, in such situations, the strategy office of a company should look at the IT partner scaling up to become the business consulting partner. But the flip side is if it is a completely new thing, if you're changing your business model completely, whether you should go into Africa or not, or if you're going to enter Japan or not, there you may or may not get the best results if the IT company scales up.
Yeah, great. So I'd like each of you to conclude with your remarks on this question. But before I ask the question, I do want to acknowledge the fact that the GCC region on the whole has handled the current pandemic probably the best amongst any region anywhere. It's remarkable how using both technology and just behavioral changes, entire region has been able to manage the spread of the virus, has been able to track and trace effectively, has kept the infection rate low and the mortality rate low. And it's amazing how the whole world has come together, and the achievements that we have been able to get to in terms of coming out with the vaccine in record time means that finally we see a light at the end of this tunnel, right? So we will be soon living in this post-COVID world, which is probably going to be different than it was before, right? It will be a new normal or the next normal. So how do you see this GCC region thriving in the post-COVID world? Which businesses do you see as performing better and embracing digital more aggressively? Starting with you, Srini, and then Uma, and then Sumanta.
Thank you. In our view, the GCC is a very, very interesting region. In terms of how they can provide pointers to the future. And there's some key observations I'll probably make here. It's one of those regions where the collaboration between the government, the public sector, and the private sector in creating the foundation and enabling factors for a digital environment is probably ahead, much ahead than many other regions. That's a very, very key piece that for us to understand. Just mere application of digital technology in isolation in a private enterprise is not going to be sufficient. So this is key. So that's the first one. The second one is a lot of the focus industries in that for GCC, retail, travel, financial services are where the business is touching the customer. So the ability for organizations to deploy technology, understand the customer is highest of these. And so for other industries, other regions, learning from how this region has been able to understand the customer and meets their requirements is probably going to be key. So to me, the GCC is going to be, obviously will build on the digital engine. It'll focus in a lot of its core industries will obviously grow, but they can be an example for how the digital world can evolve for other regions. For me, that's absolutely crucial.
Thank you, Srini. Uma, quickly, we have about a minute. If you can just summarize your thoughts, and then same you, Sumanta. You're on mute.
Uma, you're on mute.
Okay. So see, this region is in a very special situation. Take Kingdom Saudi, okay, and millions of people come for a pilgrimage, Hajj and Umrah, and they bring all kinds of viruses to the country. Okay, so country is already geared up from many years to thwart several viruses coming from various countries. Okay, and of course COVID did add the pressure, but the technology, the enablers, the hospitals, the quarantine centers, they've
already prepared for these kinds of
exactly.
invasion of pandemic and viruses.
Exactly, and UAE being a tourism hub, they are well ahead, track everything, who is coming. They have deployed a lot of technology. I believe these two, the fundamental, how the culturally, Saudi bringing Hajj and Umrah patients and UAE being a travel hub, they geared up the technology stack so well. And these are the powerhouses driving the entire GCC. And I believe that made a significant inroads, or what I see is that helped this region recovering much faster, much better than any other region.
Thank you, Uma. And Sumanta, you have 30 seconds to wrap up quickly.
So I think the government is going to play a vital role. For example, in payments, the frictionless payments is going to drive economy, it's going to drive commerce, and it's going to drive all the other industries. And the second thing, and this is a critical one, is the ability to look at individuals as individuals, even in a digital world. Look at mental health, for example, is going to be very critical. The mental health has been an issue which we don't talk about in this COVID world, but isolation has driven mental health issues, and the ability to address that is also going to be crucial for the world to be continue to be a beautiful world.
Okay, well, thank you to my panelists for your amazing insights. I think we've addressed the dual challenge of managing innovation and managing the cost side of enterprises. You've shared very valuable points. Thank you to TCS for sponsorship. Thank you, everyone.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for joining us. We hope to see you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Take care, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.